this video we will be discussing string manipulations and the offset property. And what I talk about when I talk about string manipulations is that actually I really talk about how do I take a series of characters and extract a specific part of that series of characters. So that is what I mean by string manipulations. I'm going to show 4 different ways on how to do a string manipulation. I'm going to show left, right, mid, and ling. Left simply grabs the characters starting from the left. Right grabs the characters starting from the right. And with mid, you give it the string, which character to start at, and then how many to take. So somewhere inside the total set of characters at the nth number, at last length just returns the length of the string. And instead of me just talking and talking, I want to give you a couple of examples on how to use left, right, mid, and ling for string manipulations. So in here I have opened up my VBA environment, and I'm going to show you how those functions I've just talked about works. So I have already talked about what is the meaning of sub and how do we make this kind of sub and methods and stuff like that. And in the last video I talked about debugging. So I'm going to show you how those 4 keywords are actually manipulating the string by debugging the code. And by debugging, I simply mean that I look at the code step by step. So I go through the code step by step. And the way I debug is simply by pressing F8. Once I press F8, you can see that the debugger jumps into my code. So I've set the variable a equals to left, a, b, c, d, e, f, 2. So there are 2 inputs into the function left. And as you can see, once we debug one time further, the variable a simply equals to a, b, because 2, the input of the function, simply starts at the left side and then go 2s to the right and then return that value, which in this case is a, b. And for right, we simply start from the right side and we go 1, 2, and 3 to the left because of the 3 over here. So we can see that, well, this should simply return D, E, F. So let's see if we are correct. And that is the case here. It simply returns D, E, F. So what about the mid function? Well, as I talked about before, the mid function, it simply tells us where should we start, where's the mid, and how many of the characters from the mid should we return. Well, in this case, if we debug, we can see that the variable c simply returns b, c, and d. And it does that because we start from 2 out and then we simply take 3 of the letters in the string or the characters. So at last we have the len function, and the only input here is simply the string because the len function counts the number of characters in the string. So as you can see, a, b, c, d, e, f, that is 6 characters in the string, so d should simply return 6. And that is the case. We can see that d returns 6. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you about the offset function. So the offset function, well, it simply means that, for example, if I'm pointing at a specific cell or to a specific cell inside an Excel spreadsheet, but I would like to offset that cell I pointed at so many rows down and so many rows over to a point to a different cell. So in other words, the offset function is basically a way of navigating within a collection of sets, or sorry, is a way of navigating within a collection of cells in a sheet. And I'm just going to show you the kind of general syntax of the offset property at first. So the general syntax of the offset function is simply object dot offset row offset and column offset. Now don't be too scared of the buzzword objects right over here. I'm not going to talk much about objects in this in my videos here. Maybe I will mention it briefly, but you can see the concrete examples below. But as you can see here, offset is simply a function which takes two inputs, the first input being row offset and the second input being column offset. So as you can see, the offset property takes two arguments, which corresponds to the relative position from the upper left cell of the specified range objects. And in here, inside the function, the inputs of the function, the arguments can simply be positive, down or to the right. They can also be negative, up or to the left, or they can simply be 0, which means that you are not moving anywhere. And I will just show you how it actually works by using an Excel spreadsheet for concrete explanations. Okay, so let's look at the Excel spreadsheet. So active cell means which cell I have active. So right over here, you can see, well, if I click here, then A1 is the active cell. So if I debug the code over here, you can see that, let me just press F8. The active cell should show 1 after I have debugged one more time, and it does. And now I simply use offset on the active cell. In this case, the first input of the function is 1, which means that we go 1 down and 0 to the right or to the left. And we return 2, which shows just below. Likewise, active cell.offset 2.0 equals 3, so we go 2 down from A1 and return 3. At last, I'm showing you that the second input of the offset function, it can simply go to the left or to the right from the active cell. In this case, it goes to the right because it is a positive integer. So from the active cell, which is still A1, we simply go 1, 2, 3 down and 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. And let's see, that is the case here. I hope you understand the offset function now and how we can manipulate strings. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you.